Okay, so here's part two.
Part two.
Because
it's the coolest thing ever. It's after part one.
Yeah.
Before part three, it's a sequel.
Yeah, it's part two.
Yeah, it's part two.
Part two.
God's part two. Is that what you said?
God's part two.
I thought I heard you say God's part two.
I don't know. Maybe I did.
God's part two now.
It's God's part two.
Yeah, so where we were at is you were telling me a story about how you drive to work and you see the sun and
Oh, yeah, good memory.
Yeah.
Anyways, sometimes it's just very peaceful, and in that moment, I'm like, I could be just content with being like the world could do whatever, and I could just run off and go to heaven, and I'd be okay with that. Not do today. I mean, not that I mean that in a way like I'm gonna
run off the side of the road and
yes, right. But just like if everything ended today, I'd be perfectly just at peace with it. Like I guess I'm just at peace in general.
He wants you to be that way.
Life. So, I'm ready. When he's ready, I'm ready.
I think that's the most awesome place to get to is being ready, being okay with it, being ready to move on to that next step. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's peaceful. It's freeing. Like we were talking about earlier today with the chains and anchors and whatnot.
Okay, so
it's one less thing that you have to death. There is no death.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
No. You got eternal life.
Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So I had this experience when we were leaving Florida. Jamie passed out. You know this story.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it scared her.
Sure.
And we were on our way back too, right? And she was like, man, she was overwhelmed with anxiety.
Oh, right.
Because I was leaving. She was going to be a week behind me. She kept telling me, she's like, I feel like I'm not going to make it back home with you.
Yeah.
And I was like, Jamie, that's the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And quite literally, I said this to her, what's the worst thing that could happen? You go to heaven? Because I feel pretty strongly that's where Jamie's going.
Yeah.
And of course, the Lord worked on me through that. Because I had to check myself, was that the right thing to say in that moment to my wife who's kind of in a panic? But it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's the absolute truth. And as he worked on me through that and I started thinking about it, I got to this place where heaven will be better than anything you could ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that exists now. And so when you really boil it down and you start to really dive into the guts of that concept, then you go, oh, better than anything. That means this relationship that I love having with you guys,
mm-hmm.
that death is what actually scares me. And that was what he had me ask. What's Jamie scared of? Well, she's mostly scared of leaving her kiddos. Because she doesn't she's having fun right now. She's growing up with them. She's raising them like, this is it. Like, this is everything. Mm-hmm. But that's the point. It's going to be even better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get there, you're going to recognize that it's okay.
Right.
So don't worry about it here. Right. And I think that was his kind of way of putting it on my heart.
Yeah.
It's okay. Don't worry about the things of this world. All of the things of this world.
Yeah. Because it's for naught.
Yeah.
It's chasing of the wind.
That is. Yeah. The Egyptians tried to take it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about the other night. Yeah. You take all your belongings and put them in a...
Maybe even your wife and slaves.
Yeah.
And they seal them up in there.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, have a good time.
Yep. It's crazy to think of.
Right.
That's crazy.
They'd even put little wooden boats in there that they thought they were going to, that was going to...
When they cross whatever the ocean is that they die, and they had to cross over using the boat.
Weird stuff.
Yeah.
But they were... The thing I think that we miss the most from that like time frame, from what we can see, I think they were more spiritually connected than we can even imagine.
Oh yeah.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Like they had less things attacking them than like what we do today.
Yeah.
Like the distractions are real, man. Like they're everywhere.
Yeah.
I feel like the distractions we have today are the same distractions that were back then. Nothing's really changed. We just have more ways to be distracted about the same distractions.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Yep.
yeah, totally.
Yep. Like they still had lust. They still had money. They still had wealth. They still had power. They had all those things. They had great food, gluttony. They had all those things that we chase today. We just have it in 7 different chains around us.
Yeah, we can do it in all kinds of forms.
Yep.
And we can literally be connected to it like at all times, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's like the enemy's best tool.
For sure.
Oh yeah, it really is. I don't want one.
Yeah, I need one.
I do too. But I don't want it.
Well, it's like this thing is kind of hairy for me because now I have to be on the things.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, because I'm posting it and it's kind of caught my attention again. Like I hadn't done Facebook for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And now I'm back on Facebook because I'm trying to spread the message.
Yeah.
So every now and again it catches me and I'm like,
Yep.
the scroll of
Easy to
death.
do. Yeah.
It is. It's crazy.
But you have to use the tools what we have available to us to reach people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's one of those things where you have to stop yourself before it becomes a problem. You know, like scrolling through.
God made it first for his purpose.
Yep.
The enemy figured out how to use it for his.
Oh yeah.
God's the original. He's the original creator of everything.
Yep.
And the enemy comes behind him and he's the false.
Yep.
Right? He brings the lies and like, so it doesn't look like God made this thing.
Right.
But he did.
Yep.
And he made it for good reason.
Yep.
And so we just got to find out how to exploit the goodness of it. I had this thought the other day. I had a thought. The Lord put it on my heart. Like, well, look how the enemy does use this technology, YouTube and Instagram, and he's like the enemy uses it and he just floods it with material, with bad material.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, well, we can do the same thing.
We should.
Yeah, we could all. I mean, Christians ought to be going, oh, let's start making TikToks at church, talking about God, or a short TikTok of a kid doing 9 square.
So I think there
is a lot out there.
TikToks.
Is there?
So just because the girls at church were talking about it, that's the only reason why I know.
Oh,
well, it goes back to so it's almost like the algorithms have a lot of the enemy in it, right? Because you scroll or stay too long on something, now that's going to feed you those things. And so you literally have to, it's what you fill your heart with is what you're going to see.
That's crazy.
And that's just,
you're right.
Because you can go on YouTube and you can play with it. You can be like, okay, I'm going to choose just automotive stuff. And so click. Within like, say 20 clicks on videos about automotive, it will just start feeding you automotive. Not only that, but it'll get real specific. It just feeds you the automotive stuff that you want to see on the vehicle you have. So it just starts feeding you those things. But you change one little click. Oh yeah, that's going to sneak in there. Now it's going to feed you some of these things. And it's where you lay your eyes. And that's kind of in the Bible. It's what you feed yourself is what you'll end up having.
Well, it's kind of the scary part of the whole thing, right? Is it's almost impossible to not let the enemy in.
Yep.
Even if you're looking at good stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's because then there's going to be some commercial or some, lingerie, something that's going to start getting your mind to go towards lustful things or prideful things or things of this world. Like it's pretty close. It's pretty tough to get away from it. The best thing I ever did in my walk was turn it all off.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering why I was having these thoughts that I didn't agree with. They were thoughts that were like, man, that's not something I would ever entertain even. Like, why am I having that nasty, dirty thought? And So the Lord put it like, well, where's it coming from, Jacob?
Yeah. Turn that valve off.
Yeah, turn it off. Where's it coming from? The only way that you're having that thought is by absorbing it through one of your sensories, one of your senses. And so turn all of the things off. Turn them off. Pay attention. Turn the radio off. Turn your phone off.
Yeah.
Limit your time outside of anything that's unwork related when you're at work.
Yeah.
Just totally limit it. Isolate yourself a little bit away from people, and then slowly start to, and then just pay attention. If you have that thought again, then stop and go, okay, what did I come in contact with in the past hour or 2 hours? Like, oh, I seen that billboard at the gas station about whatever.
Right.
And now I want to have a piece of pizza.
Right.
Well, that's not because I wanted to have a piece of pizza.
Right.
It actually had nothing to do with my craving.
No.
Right.
It was because it got flashed in front of my eyes. And then I now want a pizza.
Yeah.
And so that works in all ways. And that was really what that really scared the daylights out of me, really, to be honest with you. When I started to really understand that, and then it really started to make me understand how the government was controlling you and how these big corporations are controlling you. And I was like, oh.
They have spent billions of dollars.
They know us so well.
Yep. They spent billions of dollars to try to figure out how they can influence us to do the things and hear the things and say the things that they want us to say and hear and eat and consume.
Yeah.
There's a reason why these companies are very successful and the government's very successful at these. And that's man, it's powerful.
It's super powerful, man.
And that's why you got to put your Jesus filters on.
Yeah, you do. Yep. And when that becomes your authority,
right,
then your foundation is strong. Nothing can penetrate that foundation.
No.
Something might try to get in there, and you're like, whoa, wait, hold on.
Yeah, you might get termites and have to go back and spray.
Absolutely. Matthew 6. It's great. In Matthew, he talks about. I want to read this one because it's a good one.
You know what I've loved in the past couple of years, especially during football games, that I've noticed is the Jesus commercials.
They've got, I think it's great.
They've been, and I wish there were more of those because he gets us, right? Yeah. And absolutely. I think that's the reason why Jesus came, is to prove that he is not just an absent God in our lives, but somebody that gets us and wants to be with us.
Yeah.
And prove to us that you can live a perfect life. Now, we're predisposed to not do that, but he came and lived it for us to show us that it's possible.
It is only possible through him.
Yeah.
It's like people tell me now, and I'm still working on my journey here, but some people have told me now, like, oh, you can't be perfect. I'm like, I think you can. And I don't think it's me. I think through the power of Christ, I can be.
Well, you've been already painted perfect.
Say that again.
You've already been painted perfect.
When you say that, explain. Dive deeper. You've already been painted perfect. What do you mean by that?
Well, through his sacrifice, your sheet's cleaned. Now, the question is what you do with that.
Right.
Or if you continue to go. I mean, we watched the movie Mulligan last night at church.
Yeah, is that what it was called?
Mulligan?
Mulligan. Yeah. Like, right? That's the golf term for doing the shot over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good movie.
A good series. That would be a good like sermon series.
Great. The Mulligans.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and they even bring up in there, well, how many times you must forgive your brother? Well, 7 times 7, 777 times 7. You know, they go down that road, and God's grace is infinite. The question is, you know, how we keep coming back to it, whether we're going to learn from that or not. Like some people, I think they're like, well, God's going to forgive me. I got all the grace in the world, you know, and what they do with that and how they abuse it. It's very, I don't know. For some people, I fear for them.
Yeah. Just like somebody abuses alcohol.
Yep.
They abuse grace.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, man, you can't just keep doing that. Right. I mean,
yeah, no,
there's
It's not okay.
Surely consequences for that someplace, even this life or next. I don't know.
It's hard. That's a deep conversation.
It'd be a deep conversation. How many mulligans do you get? But Jesus says it.
But I mean, all you got to do is believe in him. But wow, you're blowing my mind. Mike Jones on the Bible Brothers and I have had this conversation. I said it in Hebrews. It talks about every loving father punishes his children.
Oh, yes.
And it goes even deeper than that. So you're going to get punished for your sins. I really do firmly believe that. And if you go back, after Mike and I had that deep conversation, he says in Exodus 21, 23 through 27, he says, but if there is harm, then you shall pay life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. When a man strikes the eye of his slave, male or female, and destroys it, he shall let the slave go free because of his eye. If he knocks out the tooth of his slave, male or female, he shall let the slave go free because of his tooth. I don't know why that second part was important, but nonetheless, like eye for eye was that was back in the day. Oh, yeah. But if you come back into
someone was shot.
If you come back into Matthew, Matthew 5:38 through 40, you have heard that it is said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. Mm-hmm. So I believe this to be, I think I'm saying this right. It may have been eye for eye at one point, but through Jesus, this is a new covenant. Yes. And so the new covenant is saying it's no longer an eye for an eye. Right. You do not retaliate against the people. And that is, that is hard. Mm-hmm. You do that like even unintentionally without even knowing that you're doing it. You probably totally understand. Yeah. Especially in this marriage.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Because you know so much about him that it's real easy to just, light the match.
It takes me to work situations immediately, so that's why the hesitation. But yeah.
The hesitation to speak on it. Yeah. Because we're on a podcast. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. So, I mean, it can be so easy. Here's another one, Romans 2:5. But because of your hard and impotent heart, you are storing up wrath for yourself on the day of wrath when God's righteous judgment will be revealed. So if you're having a hard heart, like, if you have a hardened heart and you are not giving it to Jesus, like you're storing up wrath for yourself. So he's telling you like, hey man, you go on sinning and you keep having a hard heart and not loving and believing me and then like there's going to be some wrath. He says it. But for those 2:8 says, but for those who are self-seeking and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, there will be wrath and fury. Yeah. So
and that's what I was I think that those that believe that you're just going to be, well, God's just going to forgive. I think that's where it comes down to, well, that's not the way it works. We're called to become better. And we cannot keep doing the same sins that we are doing. We can't. We have to grow from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't abuse, like you're just abusing God at that point. By thinking that there's just going to be grace for you every single time.
Of grace.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because some Christians will tell you like grace comes, you only get grace because of why? You only get grace because you did something wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know where you're going with that.
So in Matthew 18:21-22, Jesus said that people should forgive others 70 times 7 or 77 times. But then it kind of breaks it down just a little bit that the number 77, and I don't know where some of this stuff kind of comes from, where they get like meanings from the number. Maybe it's like a Hebrew thing.
Probably. I don't know.
Who knows? But 77 is symbolic and is meant to convey that people should forgive others without limit.
Yeah. I don't know what the symbolicness of 77 is.
77. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
There's meaning to numbers. But
I would, because there's not like 77 alphabets or letters. So I'd always break it down to then 14. And what's the 14th letter of the Hebrew? I have it on my phone here.
I have no idea.
Um,
Don't they have numbers in Hebrew? Sure they do, right?
I would suppose so. I don't know that.
And do their
that's
numbers,
a good point. I should.
Do their numbers have meaning?
But sure they do. Well, that's why their alphabet's all numbered. The alphabet's numbered. The if I understand correctly, Hebrew alphabet and the number, they coexist. They go together. I don't know exactly, but the 14th letter it's Nun, which means sprout, seed, life, continue, start, activity. So here's this parable, which goes back. It alludes. Well, I'll read it and then you guys can speak on it. It's called the parable of the weeds. He put another parable before them, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, the weeds appeared also, and the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, 'Master, did you not sow good seed in the field? How then does it have weeds?' He said to them, An enemy has done this." So the servants said to him, "Then do you want us to go and gather them?" But he said, "No, least in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow until the harvest. And at harvest time I will tell the reapers, gather the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn." And so it goes on to kind of speak deeper into this if you continue to go. There's a lot of parables in this. So what I understand that in a couple different ways is like that really is suggesting, well, I think my study Bible might even say it here. These weeds are probably darnel, a weedy ryegrass with poisonous black seeds. Darnel resembles wheat in its early growth, but is easily distinguished from it when full grown. Let both grow together. Believers and unbelievers live side by side in the world until the day of judgment. So that's actually the parable. The parable is purely about believers and unbelievers, which I find interesting too, because at one point we were all unbelievers growing with the believers. We were unbelievers growing with the believers, but now we're believers. So the weed actually turned into wheat.
Well, it's undistinguishable until harvest. And so until Jesus comes back, I can't tell from my neighbor if he's a believer or non-believer. It's not until he comes through as the harvester and decides this is bad, this is good.
That's good. Yeah. Well, so I've also thought about this same parable in our lives. Is because when we start growing through this world, I think you can see it in almost everybody, even people that have been Christians from, a very young age. The enemy gets planted in their soil. He gets yucky stuff planted, and it grows. And at some point, at some point in our life, the Lord goes, "All right, time to harvest him." Right? The bad stuff in him's grown, and the good stuff in him's grown, and now I need to take out all the bad stuff so the good stuff can start to produce fruit. That happens. It happens in our lives, like quite
Well,
literally.
he talks about trimming the vine.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
No, I know exactly.
Who are the people that trim vines and whatnot? Arbor.
The trim viners.
Yeah.
Vine trimmers.
An arbor.
Yeah. Arbor master.
Yeah, that guy.
Okay.
And they do talk about that. Like he wants to trim the bad out of our lives.
Yeah.
I think this is referencing back towards the end.
It is.
Where throughout our lives while we're living and, before the harvest, he wants us to bear fruit. He wants us to be out there and bearing the fruit, because if we are the vine, how does it go? He's the vine, we're the branch, right?
Yeah, something like that.
It's in the Bible.
It is. I don't know.
Someplace.
Oh,
look it up.
I am.
But don't let the podcast go quiet. You keep talking while I look it up.
Yeah. But that's what I think that is referring to, is at the end, you got to wait for everything to grow, and that's the people to find out where the bad is and where to actually make your harvest from. Versus throughout our lives, he wants us, just like these last 5 weeks. He's called me to change things in my life.
Yeah, man.
And so, and it's like, all right, God, all right, I know where you're going with this. I see. This is not going to be easy, but I need to trim that vine. I need to trim that branch that is not producing fruit, because it's no good. It's no good for the whole vine. It is sapping energy away from your true potential, what you're truly called to do.
Some of them are so hard. Yeah. Some of them are really hard to get rid of.
Oh, yeah. And they might sprout back up. And maybe they look like they bear fruit for a while, but eventually go bad. And that needs to be trimmed away too. You figured it all out? Arbors.
I did, but I think I might have looked at a wrong one. This is still interesting. Mark 12:9. What will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the tenants and give the vineyard to others. Have you not read the scripture? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Jesus. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. I've not really picked up on that. I guess I haven't really read Mark crazy.
Mark's got a lot in it.
It does.
He's really to the point. Okay, it's going to be in John 15, I think.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
And Jesus is the vine, and the Father is the gardener. Yep.
Read it.
Well, I don't have it all here.
You said 15, John 15?
John 15. Yep.
I am the true vine. Yep. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Mm-hmm. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing.
Right. You wither and die without Jesus being the vine. And if you are the one that gets trimmed from the vine, you will wither and die on the ground. Without him, you're nothing.
Yeah.
With him, you'll bear fruit.
Yeah.
Now, what that fruit is, maybe it's discipling.
So,
who knows? I mean,
what would be the example of something that he trimmed out of your life, that he put it on your heart that you needed to trim out? As hard as that may be to discuss sometimes, what's the
recently it's been not drinking. This is weekend 5, and it's not like we drink a lot, right? Round of applause. Very good, very good. But so she came with a text message. So
right now.
I get this text message, and it's not like we drink a lot, but it's definitely something over the past few years that has weighed heavy on me. But I did it anyway, right? So it's just the way it is, and
a problem.
And Chan also probably weighed on her, and it's the evolution. right? Of getting your vine trimmed. So she just texted me and she's like, I'm done drinking. We're not trying to drink for a year.
I said, yes. I said, I am done drinking.
Right.
I'm not going to drink.
Yeah, she said, I'm not going to drink. I think I'm going to quit drinking for a year. And so, well, that means both of us. And at first I was just like, oh man, come on, really? This. I mean, it's not like we drink a lot, that's kind of what we do on the weekends. I really enjoyed our time where we sit next to the fire and we have a glass of wine together and really like those moments. Right. And of course she's like, well, you don't have to. And I'm like, that's not how this works. We're in this together. Yeah. I'm not going to go down this where I drink and then you don't. This is how it's going to be. And so what do? We go to church, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, this is how God works, right? We're sitting there at church and it's got to be the first one in Revelations, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that he's talking about. And
maybe. So are you crying?
Well, she's getting teary-eyed, and she's going to make me teary-eyed, so she needs to stop that.
I'm just getting teary-eyed to myself.
Then we'll all be around here.
Oh, no.
So, and Joe says, what is it? He even pointed out, what do you go to instead of God, when you have a bad day? So it was like, oh, okay, this is silly.
So I just have to interrupt for just a small second because this happened on a Monday, okay? And it just came to me. I was feeling it in my heart, and I just was like, I'm so much better with when I don't, anyways. And so it was just like this, like a light switch. I was just like, I think I'm done. And so anyways, that whole week and on Saturday particularly, we've had very deep discussion about how that impacts, or how we felt like that could impact our life, our marriage, everything, to be honest. Because
you're talking about the Saturday after?
The Saturday before the Sunday service.
Where yeah. Well, we've built, how long has alcohol been?
Whole life.
Right. I mean, ever since, 12, 13, maybe even a little bit before then. I don't know.
But before that, even though you weren't actually consuming it, it was still affecting you because everybody around you was doing it.
Well, my parents never really drank.
Oh, not yours.
No, it was a choice I made on my own because of, I don't even know.
It was a choice we all made on our own. Sure. I just mean to point out, like, I know for us, for sure, like,
it was around,
maybe we weren't consuming it, but I mean, I even remember drinking while I was fishing when I was like, 4.
Right.
Like, I was thirsty and Dad was like, well, here, take a sip.
Right.
Just a sip. He wasn't like, hey, get drunk. He was like, hey, here, you're parched. Like,
yeah, take a sip.
Yeah.
So we had the discussion, probably, I think it was in the hot tub.
I think it went from the hot tub.
Jesus, jacuzzi time.
Yeah.
I think it went from the hot tub too, just throughout
the house and talking. Yeah.
It's a long conversation to say.
Those are the best.
Well, because we've been together. Will this be our 18th?
18. Yeah.
Long time.
Same as Jamie.
It's a forever time ago.
Yeah.
Forever. Anyways, but our whole life, our whole marriage, alcohol's been involved in it some way, one way or the other. And so now we're like, okay, I brought up like, we're not going to do this. Like, I don't even know what this even looks like.
Isn't that crazy?
Right. I had no idea. Like, I had no idea what this is going to look like. And it's scary to me.
Isn't that crazy?
Right. But here we are, week 5.
I know all about it.
For me, it was just, I let go. I'm done. Like,
right.
Was that easy?
It wasn't as, but I also didn't go through the process of like, Nathan's a deeper thinker than I am on lots of things. And so for me, that wasn't me. I just was like,
was that easy?
We're not going to do this, or I'm not going to do this.
Right.
And I'm not going to let her go alone.
Right. So anyways, I felt like that needed to be part, like, it wasn't just like I said this and then Joe's thing happened. It was like something that we kind of struggled with.
We talked about it all week.
And then on Sunday, Joe said, so craziest thing, Jacqueline was there and also Jane.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Joe's talking about this and about how we need to give up those things, or what's your go-to.
Was Jim and Tracy there that time too?
I don't think so. Not that time.
Okay.
But what's your go-to thing? And the whole time in my head, I'm like, oh, this is good.
I could feel her mentally nudging me. She's mentally nudging me.
Yeah.
It's like,
those are the best. Oh,
Okay, not by mistake.
so.
right. Right. So, like I said, this would be the 5th one this weekend in Revelations.
Keeping track. Oh, in Revelations.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It's been very convicting because the next Sunday you come in and you're like, all right, fine, I'll cut that out too. You know, like he's whittling away, he's trimming.
Like Joe, just stop.
Yeah.
It's painful.
Or he's reinforcing.
Yeah.
And, I told her, I was like, it's going to be fine. I'm going to do this with you. And it's not like we're going to like totally cut alcohol. We'll probably have our champagne on our anniversary. We probably will.
Why not do water?
I don't know, because it's our tradition. We always do the same bottle of champagne. So
not that traditions can be changed, but
that's the one thing I don't know if I'm able to get up, because we've had the same one since we got married, even on our wedding day. So, yeah, I don't know. No,
but
not that.
But we're definitely not going to do it like what we were, and eliminate it.
So I would be interested as you're walking to just communicate with you, because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine on Friday about this, and he also has been sober now for 10 years, totally sober, and I have been speaking on just drinking in general. Mm-hmm. Even if you think you're not an alcoholic, but you're drinking every weekend, not only does it impact you then, but it impacts you for that week. You're not as clear as you could be.
No.
Like you may not totally notice it. You may be like, oh, I'm okay. I drank. I woke up a little bit hungover. I took some Tylenol or whatever, and I just moved on.
Oh no, I noticed it, and that's why I struggled.
Agree that we are more clear-headed when we don't drink, even though we just drink on the weekends.
Yeah. And even the Monday after, say you only drunk on Saturday, come that Monday, you still have those effects from the weekend lingering in you.
For sure.
And those were the things that I was struggling with for the past few years. Is I was doing this to myself, knowing that I was not 100% on my game, and that bothered me. I did it anyway. It bothered me, but I did it anyway. You know what I mean? And the next weekend would come, and whether I would be like, no, I'm not going to do it. Then she would come and she'd be like, you know what? I want to have a glass tonight. Okay. So I'm hopping in. We do these things together. We're in it together.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not going to let her drink by herself. That's can't do that. And it's not like we were getting drunk. We're not talking about like we're getting plowed. We're not drinking to get drunk. We're literally having like a glass of whiskey or a glass of wine, maybe a second glass, but it wasn't like you're getting uncontrolled.
Getting a good buzz and calling it a day.
Yeah, that was end of the day.
Yeah.
But now it's one of those things. Where are you holding that candle? Are you holding that candle in front of you? Or are you holding it above you?
Yeah.
Where is it? And so that's what that sermon was about is why are you going to alcohol and not to Jesus? And that's what it was like.
Because the actual question starts with that exact question. Yeah. Why are you doing it?
Yep.
Jamie got me there.
Yep.
She kept asking, why do you even drink? To get drunk, duh.
Yeah.
Why do you get drunk? Because I like it.
Right.
Why do you like it? It's the old, psychiatrist thing. Walk you down through the 10 whys and and then you'll get to the root. And it's like, oh, and that was when I started my journey of sobriety. I truly, and it took a while for me to actually get off the train, but I was doing other things too. So I was just supplementing. So if I stopped drinking, I'd just go a little heavier and smoking pot or whatever. Right. But once I started looking around, Jamie's like, look around you, look at all the neighbors around you. Like they're just driving around their golf carts, drinking beer all the time.
Oh, it's everywhere.
And I'm like, wow, they are. And that's pretty crazy. It's pretty obscene how much we worship alcohol in this country.
So it's so crazy because like we're just thinking about all the things that we normally do and we enjoy those things, but we're like, but there's going to be alcohol there, or we're going to go to this, but oh man, they're going to be drinking.
Yeah,
it's like
step in.
Oh, like for instance, when we went to Oklahoma, of course, you're riding, right? So part of riding is typically what we would do is you would
have a beer. You'd stop, have a beer.
Yeah.
get back in, hit the trail,
Yeah.
So now we have a water.
It's weird.
And a chocolate.
Or a chocolate,
I've noticed that I've taken up sweets
Yeah.
a little bit more.
You supplement one for the other.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna sit here and have their drinks. I'm gonna eat some chocolate.
Yeah.
But
Or
you see it everywhere.
Or you have that bottle of water like you're drinking whiskey with everybody else. Like
Yeah.
bottle of water goes really fast. You're like, well,
I've drank 45 of these.
yeah.
Oh no, we took like 3 cases of like the
Booblies,
or
yeah.
LaCroix or whatever. Yeah, they were mostly gone by the time we were done with
You
that.
drink them like beer.
Yeah,
You do.
Because it's just part of more of like a social thing and just having something in
Your hand and
Yeah.
But what's really cool is just our friends, they're going through their life, and we've had the conversation, especially when just it's different. It's different. You're less. You don't want to be around it, but it's everywhere.
But
it really is everywhere, and it affects
it's been
everything.
like a year and a half.
Yeah, for him.
Anyways, that's probably more of like a casual conversation.
Yeah.
But he's doing good.
Yes, and so
Yes,
he
and
could
he's
relate
getting
to
in.
where Nathan was,
Yeah.
when we went, because they were with us when we went riding.
And it's really cool. He was the one we were having the conversation with the Bible, and it's like, man, I can't answer those questions. Like, I don't know anybody alive that can answer the questions you have right now, and some of it's just gonna be faith.
Yeah.
Like you can ask those questions when you get there, but will we want to? I don't know.
He says something like, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. You have to have a childlike faith or you're not fit for the kingdom of heaven or something like that. Like, it's not even a childlike faith. It's like more like being a child.
Truly, I tell you.
Yeah.
Starts it off with that.
And it's like, I've kind of tried to walk through that one. Like, what do you want? You want me to be like a child? And I think he truly does.
Yeah.
wants
to too.
He really truly wants you to be like a child. And that's not, a child doesn't drink alcohol or smoke pot or take mushrooms or take pain pills for fun, right? They're not exploring that. And so, which goes into this, 5:18 says, and do not get drunk with wine, for that is debauchery, but be filled with the Holy Spirit. So I think a lot of folks that read that, Christians typically, because they're the ones reading it, they make excuses. If I read this ESV Bible right here, it says, and do not get drunk with wine.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it says in the Bible also to drink and to, if you go to
Ecclesiastes.
Yes.
Yeah. It tells you to get drunk and marry.
Yeah.
Get drunk and marry.
Because if you don't allow yourself to live life that God gave you, and so that's where the confusion, that's where the confliction inside.
Wouldn't you see it? New Testament covenant outweighs Old Testament law. That's the new covenant. And so in this, he's saying that.
I would have to agree, but Jesus won't make you stumble, right?
No, Jesus isn't going to make you stumble.
So why would he make water into wine? And I'm being devil's advocate there.
No, I totally understand. I don't totally know.
That was
really before Jesus created the new covenant.
Right, but I don't think Jesus the whole time would have ever led anybody astray at all.
That's a great
because then
I'd like to dive into that deeper. I never thought about that.
He's not going to lead you astray.
Yeah,
and that was his actions.
Yeah,
and so I think that's where I get my mixed messaging in there.
Yeah,
and mixed.
That's where a
feelings.
lot of people run.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And really what it comes down to is, what is the Holy Spirit prompting you to do? I mean, you really have to listen to it. Yeah, and if he's asking you to trim that out of your life, then that's something you need to trim out of your life.
Yeah. I would agree with you.
But
I think that's fair.
I can go back and forth in scripture on alcohol and stuff like that. I could. But it's very difficult, and I think it really comes down to, what is the Holy Spirit prompting you to do?
Absolutely.
Because there's so many places in there where it's, and maybe where is it saying that?
5:18 in Ephesians.
So he's talking to that church in Ephesians, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe they had a problem with it. And I'm just hypothetical. This is just me hypothetically looking at it. Because he also says in there that he's not going to allow your brother to stumble. So, you know what I mean? Like,
well, he doesn't want you to he tells you not to make your brother stumble.
Right. So why would he make water into wine? And so those things where I
don't know.
I would love to see more teaching on it, and maybe get into where there's a rabbi or somebody that could actually dive into it deeper than my service thinking.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I totally agree. But I've not ever thought of it that way. So,
but regardless, I wasn't going to let her go alone into this journey.
Right.
And I was already conflicted in my own morality with drinking. And so when she said it, I didn't argue it, but I wasn't 100% for it. And it was only because of those selfish, like, what do we do? I mean, we 18 years we've had alcohol involved in our lives, and now we're going to separate ourselves from that. And what does that even look like? I mean, I don't know. But we're going through this, and so far it's cool. I mean, I still like her 5 weeks. 5 weeks. Still like her.
Weird.
Yeah. We'll see. Week 6 might be. But 5 weeks.
Well, and I don't even think it's that. It doesn't. I think the toughest part for me is absolutely everything I did. I'd go get a 6-pack or something. And so even just that little bit of lubrication to be able to be more socially involved. I was more outgoing, more talkative, jumped into things a little bit easier. So it's like you felt some of my flesh pull during the 4th of July when we were out at your house. And we kept conversating like, man, I really want to have a drink.
Oh, and I'm not going to.
Because for 30 years, 4th of July, man, we drank all day long and we blew up stuff.
Yep.
And so now it's like, okay, well, I got to learn how to just blow stuff up and leave out the drinking and have fun with that. And I've actually, that's been one of my biggest struggles in life, is finding joy, because that was my joy, is finding joy in those moments without it, still enjoying blowing stuff up, childlike,
right,
without having to have alcohol. Yeah. And I still struggle with that, like being childlike, because I think that's what alcohol kind of allowed me to do in this world of pressure, right? Was to be able to act like a child. Like, I'm okay. I don't have to be an adult. I don't have to do any of that. I'm going to drink. I'm going to get a little bit stupid. And I'm going to have fun like a child should. Yep. Well, I can do that. I had my first experience at your daughter's wedding, where I didn't drink at a wedding. That was my first wedding ever that I didn't drink at. Yeah. And then to be able to like actually just dance and kind of let go. And I was like, okay, this is going to be weird, but forget it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because I love to dance. Yeah. I love to dance.
But it only feels weird to you, which I think is like, it doesn't really look.
Nobody else cares.
Right.
Oh no. It's a selfish thing. It's a you thing.
Yeah.
It's how you think you perceive to other people, and nobody honestly cares.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, nobody cares at all.
I found the most joyful time I have ever had in my entire life was when Miles was sitting there catching fish off. We were in Galveston or whatever, and he was fishing. There was no alcohol involved, and I had so much joy to let him. That was just joyful to watch him, and that was just like a moment of pure joy. Now that happens very rarely, and I think that I don't know if it's harder for men to find that pure joy or not. I've never been a woman, so I would never know, but it's hard to find those things. And so I try to find joy watching, like when on 4th of July, watching the kids blow things up. I look at that as, look at them. They're going to have this memory. Look how joyful they are. Finding joy through others.
Yeah.
And finding that to be joyful.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, some things as you get older, you kind of just grow away from. And it's also being less selfish.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I need to find joy. No, that's not it. Like, that's selfish to find. I got to find joy. To me, that's selfish in a way. You should be happy, but seeing the joy through other people, or I don't know. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Right.
I understand what you're trying to say, how it can be a selfish act. Recently talked about this with a friend, which is, treat your neighbors as you treat yourself. And I think, I know through my journey that you can't be good for others unless you're good for yourself first.
All right.
So you do have to learn how to find you have to love yourself, have joy in yourself, have empathy for yourself, have grace for yourself, have mercy for yourself. You have to be able to do all those things for you before I can effectively actually love my neighbor like I need to love myself, or else actually I'm going to hate my neighbor like I hate myself.
I tend to agree, but I also think that we have focused so much on ourselves and satisfying our own needs in life, and especially this day and age, that's contaminated our view of
what I just
some of
said.
Those things.
Absolutely. Well, it's made you actually hate yourself, and you're not actually able.
You're not happy with it.
You're not able to love your neighbor because the way you treat him is with the same hate that you hate yourself. Right. The same anxiety and anger and pride and all those things that you're carrying because you're trying to absorb yourself.
I'm trying to make myself happy.
Yeah, because you're trying to do that. And I'm not talking about making yourself happy in those things with stuff.
Right.
Right. I'm talking about actually, truly, you got to learn how to care for yourself.
Yes.
Eat right. Take care of your body.
Treat it like a temple, more or less.
Yeah. Not more or less. It is God's temple.
Yeah.
Eat right. Exercise, feed your mind with things that are healthy, talk to yourself, right? Like, I am strong. I am able. I am capable.
Mm-hmm.
I did make a mistake, but it's okay because I'm human.
Mm-hmm.
I did mess that up. I did yell at my wife, but I'm sorry. And now I'm sorry to her. And right. And so to care for yourself in that way, then you can have that same empathy in a way better way for your neighbor, like, and truly love them. Because that's where I think the enemies kind of took this world of ours, is to where people think that they're loving themselves. And so then they're loving their neighbors in the same, but they're not. They're actually truly in love with themselves. Right. Rather than they are loving themselves. And I walked through this as just trying to find a way to be better for my people at work.
Mm-hmm.
And through reading psychology books and walking that walk, and then diving into the Word of God is really what changed my perception. Was I had to, in order to be good for them, I had to learn how to care for myself.
Right.
I can't have empathy for somebody when I have no empathy for me.
Well, and that's one thing that came out of like the men's encounter is God has forgiven you.
Yeah.
God has given you grace. You have to give that to yourself also. Like, how many people probably in that men's encounter was harder on themselves than God was on them?
Agreed.
And once you let yourself break those chains and understand God's forgiveness for you, then you can walk forward knowing that that's not a life you have to hold on to.
Yeah.
And walk forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can, as a manager, you can probably relate to that too, because that guy that made that mistake, that messed up that whatever, like, you say to yourself, like, I don't really need to punish him.
Oh, no.
Because he's already punishing himself.
I've had a guy just came up and he was like, I made a stupid mistake. And I'm like, well, did you learn something? He's like, well, yeah, I figured it out and I got it. And I was like, then good. We don't have a problem. Yeah. Good job. You did what you were supposed to do. Yeah. You found your mistake. You learned from it. Yeah. And you're moving forward. Yes. Let's just keep that back of our brain, that we're where we went on this one and how we can change that for the next time that this situation comes up.
Yep.
Let's, learn from those.
Absolutely.
And those are the type of things that, I think good leaders do, is understand that people do make mistakes and you don't have to be totally harsh on them. They're already beating themselves up.